Hey, what's up, Liron here. This is a real quick video to show you how you can paint dark to light in watercolor. Now, there are a few interesting ways where this process will demo it for you, but overall, the painting process here is quite direct, intuitive, kind of going from one shape to another, and I think you're going to really like it. There's a beautiful kind of a dry docks, boats. I love these kinds of subject matter, and I want to show you how I let the paint flow. So you can already tell, I started with the center part of this main boat there. And I am starting to establish the big shapes. Usually it's here it's mostly grays and reds, but you'll notice there's a slight difference in this red's tone. It actually becomes a little more orangey on the right side. It's a very subtle difference, and it's darker on the left side. So I'm just painting it as I see it. I'm just placing the paint in. But one thing you'll notice is how it's almost like I'm agnostic to the order in which I paint things. So I don't go, okay, first wash covering all the lights, then a medium wash for the mid values, and then darks. I don't care about that. I jump directly from this boat's light parts with all the beautiful reds and slight orange tinge on the right, all the way down to the shadow, and from that to the bottom of the boat, right, or the ship. And then I'm going to connect that after we're finishing with all these details there that honestly I was too lazy to start figuring out. I just splashed a bunch of colors and said, nah, I'll figure it out later by adding shadows and highlights. And kind of, I'm just adding blues, oranges, blacks, darks in between them and hoping it will all end up working out. That's sometimes something I do, kind of cheat myself alongside the viewer and just put a bunch of stuff there. But in any case, you'll see that dark shadow on the bottom of the boat. I'm just connecting it to the shadow on the ground, kind of closing in that gap. It should not be fully paper white, but generally speaking, I'm just painting one shape after another. There's a lot of grace and beauty in that. Look at how dark that is. That's the bottom of that boat. It's almost black, and I'm just putting that color in. But here's the cool part, right? So we have some very darks established. We still haven't painted the ground. So first off, you can let these darks dry, but you don't have to. You can just paint the ground directly. And this is what I'm doing. I'm mixing this beautiful yellow kind of... It's a bit opaque, but in a good way. And then look at what I'm doing. I'm going to let that touch the shadow completely and let the two mix together. Now, aren't you worried it's going to blend into the ground? It's going to make the ground gray, all the black. No, I love that kind of an effect. And look at how I really... I cherish that moment where the two mix together. And I'm just going to continue that wash and help it continue moving on. A part of the beauty of watercolor is the ability to do these kinds of effects, and I think it's a very graceful way to paint. And I think what develops over time is the ability to do it tastefully and to find these opportunities instead of doing it in an amateurish way, which, this here is a bit amateurish in that regard. I just kind of went for it, but you find a way to do these things in a more graceful, strategic manner. Okay, now over this light, I'm painting dark, all of these ropes, riggings, wires, whatever. And now I'm going back to the car there to the side. I'm going to start with its darks, slowly build it up. Now, one thing that is working against me almost is how rough the sketch is. And I will put a link below if you want to figure out, follow my sketch along. It's perfectly fine. But it's a very rough sketch. It's not even that accurate. If you do want to go wild in this stage, you can still base it off a more accurate sketch, thus ensuring a bit of a more accurate result. Now, it's all a matter of choices. You can choose to work in a more intuitive way where you barely draw anything, or where you draw something that's very sketchy and scribbly, or you can decide that you do want a framework to work with in the form of an accurate drawing. And then you can kind of improvise on later stages. It's all a matter of choices. It's not one way or another. It's not like you can't paint loosely over a tight sketch. It's not like you can't paint tightly over a loose sketch. It's really a matter of choices and how you choose to work. So now for the background, you'll find out, yes, it starts warm, but very fast it gets cool. Dark rather, not really cool. Kind of cooler because it's a gray dark. But I'm not going to leave any highlights here, really. I'm just going to paint the dark background connected to the gray, kind of gray-brown ground. because my plan is, again, I'm going to paint dark to light here for the most part, because what you're going to see is I'm going to add all of these highlights later on with opaque paint, going wild with this one, just to show you and just to give someone permission out there to allow themselves to paint this way. Because I know a lot of people search for that freedom and they don't know where to find it. They try, they just can't find it. Maybe this will give you permission to find it. And if you do want to find it, check out a frustration-free watercolor course. The link is always in the description box below. It's, to me, the basis for everything. Once you get how the paint works, you can start experimenting on your own. You can start trying things out, testing the water, seeing what happens when you do this kind of a thing and when you do that kind of a thing. And that is the key to building something that is your own. Something that you truly own in terms of style and approach, because that would be my ultimate goal, to truly, fully own my own style, to actually have it something that is mine, not borrowed by anyone else's approach and anyone else's style. It is just a pure indication of who I am as an artist. Okay, so as part of that, I'm just going straight into the next wash. I didn't let it dry on purpose. Whatever time has passed since I did the previous wash, that's how dry it is. But you'll notice I am using a bit of a brighter red there. I will put in the link below to the reference photo in the sketch stage. I will also put a link to the palette. You can see all the colors I'm using. I'm not showing you the mixing really because I filmed this one really zoomed in pretty much. But just so you know generally what I have. And once again, I'm connecting the two washes and I really indulge in that moment of the two washes flowing together. To me, it's just great fun. You know, if I can paint something with a completely lucid free flare and then ultimately even have it read well, that's the ultimate win. And you will see in just a few seconds after I finish this wash where we'll start including the highlights, because I told you I'm painting here really dark to light in a way. Well, you look at the overall process, it ends up being dark to light. We're going to add the highlights later on. It will make a lot more sense. And it will kind of fix things and put things in their place. To me, the ideal is to paint very symbolically and still have it read realistically from afar. Now, something interesting I discovered lately is you can use this white gel pen by Signo Uniball, link in the description box. You can use that while the paint is still wet and get almost a wet and wet result. That's something I discovered just in the last couple of weeks, and I think it looks really, really cool. Now starts the journey of adding all of the beautiful highlights. So we're painting dark to light, adding the highlights at the end to match sometimes the shadow that is already drawn there, but sometimes it's going to be a completely new shadow that I will add after the effect once again. So this is almost forgetting about the medium we're using, watercolor, and painting almost as if, again, agnostic to the medium. It could be watercolor, it could be acrylics, it could be oils, it could be even pastels. I'm just adding the shapes I see. And you can continue this process more and more and optimize it more and more and add more and remove more and mix more and remove and add and do whatever you want, right? You can add highlights, shadows, mid values. If you mix this paint with normal watercolor, you can make it slightly more transparent, slightly more of a mid value. You can do anything you want at all, and you can continue editing this down more and more. My goal here was truly just ultimate freedom, seeing how much I can get away with. We're going to do yet another dark wash to really bring out the wall and the darkness behind the highlights. That was quite important, especially with these. So I'm pointing at the screen as if you can see what I'm pointing at. But these two small boats I'm going over right now, that contrast is beautiful. And a big part of what makes things interesting is that contrast. Whether it's in value or in color. And look at the ground, you know, it's a big mess. The boat really is just bled completely into the ground. Was it the most correct way of doing it? Was it the most preferable way of doing it? Not necessarily. It was just a way that I really enjoy, and I like to see it kind of mixed together really well in interesting ways. Now, as for these boats, after I put in the highlights, I'm now justifying them with some darks, and I'm using a beautiful cobalt blue here to paint something that's in between. The cobalt's a little opaque, but it's also not fully, so it's not very light. It's almost a light to mid value. So that allows me to get quite a lot of interesting details in to show details on the boats, you know, these beautiful stripes they have, a bit of the car even. I'm just kind of looking and seeing where I can find that color, and I'm putting it everywhere. It's one of those things I really enjoy, and I think it's easier once you already have a color in hand to just use it in multiple locations across the painting, and it saves time, but it also makes a lot of sense because you don't need to remix an existing value. Now, just like any shipyard or docks, a big part of what makes it look like boats is all of these masts and basically vertical lines. Lots of vertical lines for the radar systems, for different antennas, like structures, all of that good stuff. I find that as soon as you start putting these details in, chef's kiss. It becomes something, I think, way more interesting. You're putting all of that in there. And just some details on the ground. There are some tracks, some, you know, people drag stuff around and it creates these patterns, tires, whatever it is, everything there. These things that make the ground look a little more solid. Honestly, I could even stick a darker shadow there just to make a separation, a better separation between the ground and the boat, but that's fine. Some small tracks here and there. These are just final touches, you know, you can go with your gut on these. But to me, the most important thing is when I zoom out here and I look at this thing, does it read as the thing it's supposed to read as? And if it does, to me, I consider that a great success. Sorry, I have a runny nose today. Putting a bit of blues there into to show the reflection of the sky, as you can see in the reference photo, spraying some water on it. I'm going to rotate it around just to let it move horizontally, and after some drying time, here's the end result that you have here. And I don't know about you, but I really like this kind of a result. I hope you found this video interesting. I will remind you, if you want to paint like this with a lot of freedom, a lot of flow, a lot of spontaneity, that will allow you to achieve anything you want. Check out the frustration-free watercolor course where I teach this exact thing. And I will remind you, there is a gallery-wide sale over on lirongallery.com, Christmas sale. A discount off of your order, you know, 15% off fully, whatever you put in the cart. If you want to get a gift for someone, you want to get a gift for yourself, check it out. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone who supports me over on Patreon. Truly appreciate that. It means a lot to me, and it makes me really want to create tons of free content for you. And there is an exclusive process on Patreon. If you have not checked that out, be sure to check that out as well. If you're already a supporter there, I think you're going to like it a lot. We'll talk to you again real soon. Take care.